I would like to share with you some thoughts from an article I read in a recent edition of American Magazine, which is published by the Jesuits. The title of the article is A Question from Quarantine. Is God still good during the pandemic? The author is Juan Vidal. He's the author of Dad, a story of family in the subculture that shaped a generation. And this is what he has to say. First, the brutal truth. The coronavirus pandemic is sweeping the world. People are uncertain and afraid. Many are dying and more will die. Many of us are asking, why is this happening? Where is God in all of this? Thankfully, I hear the soft and steady voice of my Colombian mother echo in my head, recalling those times when she would remind me that God is always there, that Dios siempre está en control. I'm not a theologian or licensed minister. I'm simply someone trying to make sense of the suffering caused by COVID-19 in hopes of better understanding how and why tragedy plays out the way it does in the human story. In the meantime, I'm finding solace in the bursts of joy that have helped to fill these days of social distancing, cooking, sharing memes, and watching live DJ sets and beat battles on Instagram. I also remember some of the experience that not only shaped my worldview, but also convinced me of God's inherent goodness, even in uncertain times. I remember being a missionary in my mid-20s, a college dropout, who left everything I knew to answer the call. For more than 2 years, I traveled the world with a non-denominational ministry organization holding packed events everywhere from remote villages in Russia to squatter camps in South Africa. I watched sickness ravage communities. I witnessed every manner of abuse rip apart families. But I also saw signs of hope. I saw people in the midst of suffering, find peace. And I saw crippled people remain faithful to God and become able to walk again. In essence, I traded the prospect of a college degree for knowledge that God is good, that God can make it a way when it seems like there is no path forward. I am not the same person I was back then, but my hope is still anchored in these truths. I have weathered seasons of doubt, and I can understand for some atheists, a fast-moving and deadly pandemic only serves to confirm their disbelief in any higher power. This is not unreasonable. It is human nature to wonder, what is happening? I count myself among those how triumphant, those speaking from the depths. I believe that harboring doubt, even considering the bleakness of our current state, can be a silent killer. So I pray instead. Sometimes I drink. On some nights, after a full day of working and homeschooling our kids, my wife and I take to the patio to have a drink, mourning the day's loss and trying to remember the goodness of God. Somehow, we know is at work. I believe the picture is larger than what we can see with our eyes. The picture of God at work amid great pain. And so I ask the wavering believers, the cynics, the backsliders, the weary, and the heavy laden, the single mothers making do by a thread, the poets and out-of-work bartenders, standing by as past due bills pile on like a bully's insults. Those who lay it all down, tired and spent, and hanging by a moment, and anyone searching for some small sign of tangible hope, or even spiritual relief in this time. What if God is still good? What if, despite how things may look or feel, God is bringing purpose and determination to the bent and broken among us, even if we do not see with our eyes or on our social feeds? On darker days, I ask myself, a believer and cynic, wrestling with an avalanche of contradicting emotions, the same question: what if God is still good? What if God is still good? And then I remember. And let me add to what he has said the words of St. Augustine. St. Augustine wrote, "In my deepest interiority, however lonely I feel, I am not alone, for at the core of my very being is another."